basically telling you you're scheduled till 9 p.m.
Oh, okay.
You are live apparently.
Oh, we got live now?
Apparently so, yeah.
Oh, okay.
We were counting that.
Right, okay. So we're actually live now. We've not at this moment in time got anybody. Oh, we've got one viewer. So people in the comments, if you wouldn't mind letting us know that you can hear us fine, that would be great. But also, I'd like to introduce you all, if you don't know who this is. This is Steve Stark, the author of these two amazing books. One, A Hot Dose of Hell, which is awesome, and Violent Ends, which is a thrillology. Is that what we're calling it, Steve? A thrillology.
Yeah, trilogy. Yeah,
I love that. But there's 3 short stories in that. Am I correct in saying that?
that's correct. Yeah.
Okie dokies. So for people, I can hear. Great. Thanks, Alicia. So for people who jump on the live and maybe watch it on the replay, Steve, just tell us a little bit about yourself.
Okay. I grew up southwest of England,
Okay.
small towns all along the coast. Sort of bounced around a few of them.
Yeah.
Most of the industry in those is nightclubs and things like that, or it was when I
Okay.
was growing up.
Yeah.
So my entry into the working world was through nightclubs.
Oh,
Yeah, I started out as a glass collector when I was underage.
right.
It's like
As you
15.
do.
Yeah. There's me and a few of my buddies, and we were just working in a big nightclub there. Just
Right.
running around
Nice.
carrying big stacks of glasses and trying not
Yep.
to fall over all the time.
Yep. Been there, done that. That's good. So I just want to say as well, this is a 200 subscriber celebration, Joe. So we're really grateful for that as well, guys. Thank you all to the subscribers for joining our channel. We just wanted to say thank you for that as well. But I've got a few questions for you, Steve. Is that okay?
Okay. Yeah.
Okay. So I'm going to shoot with this one first. Standard question. What made you want to become an author?
I think it was just I had lots of stories to get out, like from that sort of background. Like after what I was saying, where I worked in clubs to start with,
Yeah.
I moved on to being a bouncer and then spent a lot of time in security.
Oh, okay.
So had a lot of crazy stories and things I'd experienced.
Right.
So I started writing some of those down, and then it kind of grew out of that, really.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, I'd always been a big fan of horror, so
Yeah.
brought that into it, and it lends itself to it very well. It's only taking some of those situations and then putting a horror twist on it, and
Yeah.
we're there really.
What's that one there? Oh, there's Britain shouting out
Britain,
to
mate.
you. Let's say hello to. We've got Otto's here. Hey Otto. Oh, thank you, buddy. And we've got Alicia, just telling me that they can hear me fine. So good, we can hear us right. Okay. I don't know how you get rid of that, Joe. That's your department. So, with you being on the doors,
Yeah.
I had a sneaky feeling when I was reading your books that there was some sort of experience that you had that related to the books, especially because we've got this kind of flip over of the homeless aspect. So
Yeah.
that's the start of who we're kind of following in A Hot Dose of Hell, and then with the first story in Violent Ends, there's that amazing character. Oh, I lost you there for a sec. That amazing character, Jimmy, who can I just say, you wrote superbly. That is an amazing, amazing character. So I was curious as to, do you have experiences with the homeless? Is that how you were able to write Jimmy that well?
Yeah, a lot of that. So from coming out of clubs, I'd been in clubs
Yeah.
for a long time. I moved into daytime security, and I was working in a large store, which I won't name,
Okay.
but which also had a pharmacy in it in daytime
Right.
security. And one of the things this place did was it had a needle exchange.
Oh,
So
okay.
a lot of my job was actually just handling kind of antisocial behavior from a lot of homeless drug addicts that were coming in to use the needle exchange. Most of the time they were
Wow.
fine. They just come in, get the stuff and get the medications and things and go.
Yeah.
But every so often there'd be a problem. These are troubled people.
Yeah.
So when that would happen, I would often have to detain them. in a
Right.
little holding cell, and it would basically be me and them in a room that was just a few feet. There'd just be a couple of
Yeah.
feet between us. It was a very, very small room. Most people like this, the size of something you'd store your coats and shoes in at home. It's like that big, and I'd be waiting for the police to come.
Right.
So we'd spend a good few hours often waiting for the police. So I'd get to know them really well.
Right. Yeah, I've had similar experiences. I worked myself in a supermarket at one point.
Oh yeah,
I was a checkout manager in this particular supermarket, and we had an office of which you're speaking about, security office, and did some very similar things. Didn't have many run-ins with homeless like that, but I do
yeah,
know kind of the room you're talking about. Yeah, that's really interesting. I've never really thought that a supermarket or such would have something like that where,
yeah.
that's a bit right, okay.
I
So
know. I was-
is that the part that played on the Hot Dose of Hell with the drug aspect?
Yeah, because like I say, I got to know a lot of these characters very well. I was working in the same place all the time. I get to know their stories. I get to know them because we're seeing them regularly, and they'd all
Yeah.
tell me about each other as well. So
Right.
I was able to follow lots of the stories in the few years that I worked there. So a lot of the characters definitely very much informed the characters that were in Hot Dose.
Right. That's so cool. Because it is very informed the way that you describe the homeless people. There's so much information in there. I actually even thought, has he maybe been homeless? Is that how we know so much? Is that
Yeah,
because it's that well written, especially Jimmy. What a cracking character that is. He's
yeah,
so good. Yeah, and what can I say? Can I say what he is? Can I say?
yeah. Go for it.
Mm.
Go for it.
That the fact that he's a serial killer.
Oh,
Oh, it's so good. It's so good. It's brilliant. Um, and the little I'm not going to say what that is, but the little twist in that little story, how we get Fred and Pinky involved, and yeah, I'll tell you after. It's good. It's good. What else did I want to ask? So you've covered that, but what made you want to turn that aspect of your stories into horror?
It seemed to fit. It seemed to me like a way of telling those stories, but making them kind of fun at the same time.
Yeah, yeah,
You know?
because you definitely got the humor in there.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah,
I mean, as Brits, we generally appreciate dark humor.
dark
So
humor, don't we?
yeah,
Quite dark as well.
yeah.
Thankfully, we've got Britain. You think I'm going to spoil the whole thing, but we do have very, very dark humor in Britain. But Britain has got quite a good dark humor as well. Um, so is that why you took on the drug aspect of the first book? Is because of that? And where did you use actual people to relay your characters? Was that part of that as well?
To a certain degree, lots of them are like amalgamations of people.
Yeah,
They'll have a few characteristics from various people, and then maybe some of their experiences might be based on stories that I'd heard as well.
yeah. What about Rhonda? Because I really like Rhonda as a character.
Rhonda, yeah, Rhonda's got a few influences. She's you were kind of spot on with the kind of character that you suggested.
Was
That
that?
kind of
Yeah,
like
because
quite
that's how she.
butch.
Yeah, that's how
Yeah,
she
that
looks
kind of
to me.
thing. Very much like Ronda Rousey, the UFC champ or ex
Yeah,
UFC champ, and like Gina Carano, people like that.
yeah.
Um, and a little bit of my own antisocial kind of attitude that I had when I was younger as well. So there's a bit of that in there.
Right, right. Yeah, she's a great character. But just straight away with the pull-ups on the pipe work and
Yeah,
the fitness aspect of her, straight away I went to is it Abby from The Last of Us? The second one.
yeah, that was who you
Yeah,
said before. Yeah,
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 yeah. Straight away that's where my mind went with what she looks like. And for me, looking at her like that, that played out really well for her as a character in my visual aspects of it. Um, where did you get the ideas of Fred and Pinky from?
Fred and Pinky. I've known a lot of characters like Fred and Pinky, so I wanted to have characters like that I knew people would enjoy,
Yeah,
that would get stuck into the situation. So yes, there's little bits of, again, lots of people in with Fred and
yeah.
Pinky. Fred is like some of the old guys I met when I was sort of starting out on the door, and they
Mhm.
were kind of on their way out. A lot of the
Yeah,
guys who sort of taught me how to do the job,
yeah.
like rough, smart people though. They've got a lot of hard-earned wisdom.
You know that, don't you? Like my dad.
Yeah.
My dad was an ex-doorman.
Right.
Yep. So
He's the
Fred.
Cockney, right?
Yep.
Yeah.
Yes, he is. It wasn't like Fred in description wise, but very much kind of attitude wise. That's yeah. So I didn't see my dad in Fred because of how you describe him, but the attitude was there, and I do love that pairing. They're such a great pair.
Yeah.
Very very much a comedy duo as well. Like they bounce off each other with the humor, and yeah, and the end scenes with Ronna are some of the best in that book. Just the way that they're handling what they're handling, and how Fred's got humor in it all, and yeah, it's superb, so funny.
Oh, fantastic. Thank you.
Yeah, it's really good. Do you plan to stay with horror? Are you continuing to write?
Yeah, I've that seems to be what fits for me, but I have branched out into a couple of other genres recently. I've written a couple of short stories in different genres. I wrote a kind of like a satirical sci-fi action story for Slaughterhouse Press.
Right.
They put it out in the Maximum Firepower anthology. I've got another short story that's more of a fantasy-based one.
Right.
And that's also going out with Slaughterhouse Press. And then I've got one that fits more with the horror stuff, more with the hot dose kind of world. And that's coming out through Crucifixion Press, their Shoot the Devil anthology.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
So which have you found you enjoy more?
Horror definitely comes natural, but I have enjoyed trying other things as well.
Yeah. Nice. Yeah, because the horror, you do it well. So it would be a shame to see you sort of leave that if that's what you intended to do, but you do it well. Do you have influences in the horror network that, you know, like authors, films, so on and so forth? That
Yeah, absolutely. I was very inspired by like lots of the writers that were big around the 80s and stuff, the kind of paperbacks that my mum and dad were reading.
Yeah.
Things like James Herbert, Sean Hudson, Clive Barker, and Stephen King as well. You can't get away from Stephen King.
No. Not when it comes to horror. But a hidden gem is Clive Barker, isn't it?
Yeah.
You know, he's maybe slightly underrated because of Stephen King, I think.
Yeah.
But another one who I quite like is Dean Koontz.
I haven't read much Dean Koontz actually.
When he does horror, he does it well. He's very explanatory in his way of writing, but when he does thriller well as well, suspenseful thriller. There's a particular book he's wrote that I love, and it was adapted into a film, which is called Intensity. And the story in that is kind of about kidnapping, but it's quite dark and deep, and you know, the guy who's kidnapping is a little bit twisted, and yeah, that's one of my favourites that Dean Koontz has done. Yeah, he's quite good. I like Dean Koontz. I was going to say something then off the back of that. No, it's gone. Never mind. That's going to happen because of the fibro brain. It's fogged. So when you're writing stories, what technical way do you go about that? How do you start your writing journey? Because I know there may be budding authors who watch this video at some point. I know Britton is writing his own stuff. So where does your technique come from?
Obviously, a lot of different influences that I've read growing up. But my style is I try to treat each chapter as like a little short story. So you get some sort of, something happens in every chapter. It's eventful with an overarching kind of story going on. And obviously I sometimes try to juggle a couple of different characters, so I'm bouncing back and forth between different groups. I think I've lost you there.
Yeah.
So I build it up. I get a rough outline
There we go.
of the story I'm going to go for. Usually I've got a rough idea where I'm going to start with. and then just sort of pack the meat on in between, and then you make all your little discoveries between that point. And then sometimes you're not quite got the ending, but you've got a rough idea of the ending.
Yeah.
And then by the time you do get there, everything falls into place.
Yeah, because I mean, I'm gonna shout it out there. I'd love to write a horror. I'd absolutely love to have a stab at it.
I'll do it.
But I struggle because I'm kind of I'm desensitized to horror because of how long I've been privy to it. I was privy to it at such a young age that I'm kind of desensitized. But there are a couple of things that still freak me out, which is mirrors,
Okay.
and to some extent clowns. But I just don't know how I'd go about it. I think that's why I'm kind of asking for myself, to be quite honest, because I'm picking your brains basically.
Okay.
Because I wouldn't really know how to get going, like how to start. But I love that element of, treat each chapter like a mini story, because that is what made your book keep going, was that element. You can tell that in the way that you've wrote, because there's not one single chapter where you're let down. It is a constant story, and there's always a constant revelation and something new to find out.
Yeah.
So yeah, I can see that in your writing. So I'm going to take that little bit of advice and give that some thought. I haven't started. Well, I'm saying I haven't started anything. I did actually have an attempt, didn't I? I did start to write maybe a murder mystery. Kind of lost interest in it because it was boring to me, and I like horror. I'd love to be able to make people wet the pants
Right.
with something that I'd write. But I don't know if it'd get published because it'd probably end up too dark.
You can self-pub it.
Yeah, God, yeah.
Yeah.
Did you? Is yours self-pubbed or?
Yeah, the novel in the collection are self-pubbed. Other stuff I've put out with publishers, but usually only short stories.
Yeah. Do you prefer that way of publishing, or?
I don't think Hot Dose ever would have seen the light of day had I not done that. I don't think I would have stood a chance of getting that out there.
Yeah, it probably is kind of one of those where it's a bit dark. Are you so you've got this short story book, Violent Ends?
Yeah.
But will you be carrying on with a Hot Dose? Will there be a follow-on?
There is I've got ideas about how to do it. Yeah.
Right.
So
because
I could do that. Yeah.
It was kind of left open-ended.
Yeah.
So I was thinking, he's left himself the purchase here if he wants to go back and play again. Yeah, I'm excited for that. Yeah, I'd like to read that if you do it.
Yeah. Oh, cool. Yeah.
Yeah.
I've got a good few ideas of how that'll work. I know a character I'd be bringing back, and I know how the kind of situation would develop from where I left it.
Yeah. I'm hearing what you're putting down, because you did leave it open for further story to find out how has this drug come about and who did that. And that I liked that. I do love a good book that has kind of that open end, because then you want that next chapter. You're like, you can't leave me there. Why have you left me there? I need to know more. So I did like that element. So yeah, that's cool. I'm so glad that you're going to do that. Let's see, what else did I put down? What we're looking at? Oh, go on then, pop that up. Britain's got a question. Is Pinky a reference to Pinky Brown from Brighton Rock?
No, it's not.
I have no idea what that is, Britain. No idea.
The book and the film.
Is it?
Yeah, I'm not fully aware of it.
Right.
That's just ringing a bell to me.
Oh, okay. At least you know, because I didn't. Let me see. So I've asked that one. So we've covered why the reasons why you wanted to write horror. Oh, my daughter wanted me to do this with you, my other daughter.
Okay.
So I put down just a bit of fun. Authors that you'd have at your dinner party, but she also wanted the Kiss, Kill, Marry.
Oh my God. Oh no.
So either or. Dinner party, Kiss, Kill, Marry. It's entirely.
Okay. Dinner party, I would have James Ellroy.
Okay.
He's pretty crazy. He's pretty funny. I like him. He's got a lot to say. He'd be
Yep.
lively. I would have Irvin Welsh there as well. Read a lot of his stuff. Big fan of his. So yeah, also he'd be pretty lively.
Mm,
Clive Barker, because I just love to pick his brains. And I
yeah.
think he'd be fun too.
I think he'd be
Yeah,
slightly
those would be the
warped as
three.
well.
Sorry?
Clive Barker, I think he'd be a little bit warped.
Yeah,
Yeah.
definitely.
Yeah, he'd definitely be
It
fun.
seems like the type he'd be sat there quietly and then say something really outrageous.
Yeah.
Everyone would just kind of.
Yeah.
I think that would be him.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, I'd love Clive Barker. Yeah, that's cool. Kiss, Kill, Marry.
Oh. Yeah, I can't do
Let's-
that one.
Yeah, I can't do that one either. Or could I? No, because Kiss would probably be. Ooh, not because of attraction or anything like that. Just more of an admiration thing, I think.
Yeah,
It would have to be Agatha Christie because I've loved her forever.
yeah,
And
she's
I just
great.
think she's the best mystery writer ever. Kill. Whoa, don't know about that. Don't think I can pick anyone to kill. Marry either. You'd have to be slightly attracted to somebody who's an author to be able to do that. So yeah, I'm not sure about those ones. So can we find out more about your escapades into fantasy? Sort of, where would you go in the fantasy genre? What's the ideas behind fantasy for you?
Sure. Well, the story I wrote recently, it's a kind of a title character, a little bit like a Conan the Barbarian type.
Okay,
He's based on a character from Celtic mythology.
right.
So I took a little bit of that. It seems to be quite an obscure character.
Mm-hmm.
So there's a bit of a twist with him. There's something secret about him.
Right.
So if you're into it, you're going to know straight away what's going on with this character when he walks into a situation. But if you're not aware of it, it's a good twist that's coming
Yeah.
up.
That sounds cool.
Yeah.
I took you for a sword and sorcery guy, Steve.
Yeah, I've not really read much fantasy. Like Robert E. Howard's my guy for fantasy. I find
Right.
it difficult to get into sometimes. I feel like sometimes it's a little bit over-explained. There's a little bit too much world building, and I get quite bored.
Right.
You know, I like quite lean stuff. I read a lot of like pulpy crime fiction, really,
Right.
and lots of like horror short stories. That tends to
Yeah.
be my favorite stuff to read.
Right. So you don't like the prolonged narrative, you prefer it short, condensed.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, there's like some books that are 150 pages, and I'll go back and read them again quite happily. And if it's something that was, you know, like 500 odd pages, I might read that once and never touch it again.
Yeah. So do you have a writing influence, like an author whose written style has influenced your style?
Yeah, like so some of the guys I mentioned earlier, like James Herbert, Sean Hudson, guys like that, but also Richard Stark, crime writer.
Okay.
His real name's Donald Westlake. He wrote like a series of crime novels under Richard Stark,
Right.
and it's very punchy. It's very like sparse writing.
Right.
He wrote the Parker story. Have you seen the film Payback with Mel Gibson?
Sounds familiar.
The one where they smash his toes with the hammer at the end.
Do you know what I probably have, but probably don't remember it right at this moment in time.
right.
It does ring a bell.
That was the character of Parker that Richard Stark created and did like a whole
Right.
series of books on it. There's about 30 of them. I've not read them all, but I've read
Right.
a substantial amount of them.
Yeah.
But yeah, he was a big influence on me.
And speaking of like book turned into film, how would you feel about somebody approaching you for an adaptation of A Hot Dose of Hell?
Obviously, I'd be delighted.
Mhm.
But yeah, I'd also be worried. I'd
Yeah,
want it to
I
be
was
in
going to say how
in the right
much.
hands.
Yeah, yeah. So how much kind of say so would you want in that?
I'd want them to be able to, you know, do their own thing with it to an extent. Film is a different beast to a book.
Yeah. But
Um,
I think it reads so easily to format into a film or
yeah.
even a series that it wouldn't be that much of a a trudge from book to film. That's my personal opinion anyway. How do you
Yeah.
feel about it?
I kind of wrote it that way because
Yeah.
my style's quite visual, isn't it? Like very
Yeah.
much of like you're seeing exactly what's going on, kind
Yeah,
of thing.
absolutely.
There's not too much internal that wouldn't be able to be communicated by a good actor. I don't
Yeah,
think.
that's what I thought. I read it as a film. It read like a film to me, like you're saying, how you do your chapters. So those I would imagine are sort of scenes laid out on a script. Is each one has some action, and that's exactly how you write. I think it would be easy to adapt and keep very true to the book.
Yeah.
So, is there any particular director that you would like to see involved in that?
Oh, Guy Ritchie, someone like that would be good. Yeah. Or Sam Raimi as well.
Sam
I like
Raimi.
Sam Raimi a lot. Yeah, they could team up.
Yeah. Or because it's horror,
Yeah.
I'm potentially potentially I am a huge fan of James Wan.
Oh yeah, James Wan's good.
James
Yeah,
Wan
I
would
love
be quite,
Malignant. That's
yeah,
my favorite of his. I think that's
yeah.
brilliant.
I think he could make it quite twisted and a little bit sort of,
Yeah.
take what you've put and put that creep on it. So
Yeah.
yeah, I think that would
Yeah,
be.
he could do a lot of stuff with the hotel, with the lighting and things like that, couldn't
Mm,
he? Yeah.
yeah. Did you have, speaking of the hotel, is that a real place or did you?
Yeah. So
Yeah.
yeah, a lot of the places I grew up and lived, big on tourism on the coast, or at one time it was, and then the tourism died. So there's lots of like derelict hotels like that. And I
Right.
lived around the corner. There was one smaller one that was just down the road from my house as a kid. And I remember that being a squat, and there was just
Yeah.
all kinds of stuff going on in there. And then there was a couple of really large, formerly grand hotels that just went under. And I think the same thing happened with those as well.
Yeah. Yeah, because you do get that. That's one. I think I mentioned that in my video. You've done such a good job of describing the Victoria that you can feel it. You actually feel it, like how it's dirty and it's stinky, and there's piss everywhere, and
Yeah.
you've done such a good job of making it grimy. And as I pictured it, and correct me if I'm wrong, I pictured it with that kind of these concrete walls where the plaster's coming off and there's graffiti, and
Yeah.
there's the steps like cement steps, and it maybe with like a faulty wooden banister, and it was that kind of image was in my head as I was reading it. And maybe a flickering light here and that a bust bulb here, and that's
Yeah.
how I was seeing it, and the floors and floors and floors going up, especially when you're doing that particular scene where there is a fight scene on the stairs with Rhonda. And I was like, yeah, he's done such a good job of visualizing it that you can't not see it. I don't know how you'd be able to read this and not visualize exactly what he's talking about. And
Yeah.
to a certain extent, you could even smell it, like how it's, it's that kind of, the festering bodies in there, and I don't know if heroin has a smell to it, but that kind of ness about
Yeah.
it. And I know in the
Those
UK,
buckets.
yeah. Oh god, yeah, the bucket. They were nice. That was a nice touch.
Yeah.
What was it? So about the beginning of the book with Roxy and Kevin. So Kevin was a Scouser.
Yeah.
Yeah. And Roxy, she's a great character as well. My memory's failing me at the minute. Did we get to know how them two met?
Yeah. So she'd moved there because she'd heard this was a good place to go,
That's right.
and actually found out that it wasn't a good place to go to this town. There wasn't any extra help there, but for some reason this message had got out to the homeless, like, go to this place, this is a good
Yeah.
town to go to. And she wound up sleeping under a pier and almost wound up with hypothermia. And it was Kenny that finds her, and he sort of takes her under his wing and takes her to the hotel and
Yeah.
warms her up and gives her some booze. And that was how they sort of made that initial bond.
Right. Yeah, that's right. I remember now. Because I was so involved in. Eventually, I ended up so involved in the action side of everything that the beginning sort of left me. I still remember,
Yeah.
that Roxy was with Kevin, but the beginning left me a little bit because I was so into the action. without maybe giving too much away, but I'm assuming that we've got a few people who have read your book here. But for you know, when they watch it on the replay, what made you twist the element of the drug and take it that way?
To the effect that it has on them.
Yeah, yeah.
The story was originally going to be similar, but it was going to be vampires instead, and I thought
Oh,
that just wasn't really working for me.
right.
So it had to be something that was done to them, not something that they naturally are. I think was the crucial point. You know,
Right.
the people who use this drug, they're as much a victim as they are the monster, and I think that
Yeah.
was important to have that distinction. I didn't want to put that analogy in there of homeless people being vampires. Basically, I think I realized that didn't work. You know.
Mm.
So once I got that in there, and it sort of tied in with, like, you might call them conspiracy theories, you might not, but you know, the idea of like governments flooding certain areas with drugs to, you know,
Yeah.
weaken that population. We've heard those kind of things, you know.
Yep.
And it fits with that. And there was also, I mentioned it in the book, the crocodile drug.
Yes.
I'd read about. That's a real thing, you know, and that was
Oh,
that's pretty awful. Like, you want to look it up after if you're, you know.
yeah, will do.
It's pretty disgusting, but it does have
Right.
that effect. It rots people's flesh. They look awful after they've,
Oh, really?
yeah, it's a really nasty drug. So
Wow.
that all sort of came together in my head, and that was where the concept for them came from. And I kind
Yeah.
of wanted with the Leg Up crew to sort of take their posing,
Yeah.
and put them dealing with the worst case scenario of people who are really on the edge anyway.
Yeah.
And then amp it up again, so it really shows who they are in that situation.
Yeah. Would you ever consider going back to the vampire idea?
I've got something kind of similar, actually, in
Oh.
mind. So yeah, I will do something like a vampire story. That's something I've got
Right.
coming up. Yeah.
Right. And how come we have Mr. Sledge, who is such a fan of yours? How did that connection happen?
Just through Twitter. Yeah, we just
Right.
sort of found each other. Yeah.
It's cool.
It's kind of funny. Yeah, we're very similar guys. I think we'll
Yeah.
get on very well when we actually finally speak to each other. We've never spoken outside of like messages to each other on Twitter.
Yeah, yeah.
But I'm planning to interview him for the Red Pill Fiction Factory soon.
Oh, cool.
We're going to set that up and finally meet.
That should
But
be fun.
sorry.
That should be fun.
Yeah.
Because
I'm looking
like,
forward to it.
yeah, like you know, on Twitter, sort of. Obviously, you guys have like been very kind to me in the messages and whatnot. And as I said, didn't I found my people. I was like, oh
Yeah.
my God, you know, we've got all the wrestling gifts and the horror gifts. And I was like, I found my people.
Yeah.
I love it. I feel completely at home with you guys. It's
Oh,
like
brilliant.
you get who I am because I'm a freak. And, you know, I've met freaks. It's fine. It's all
Yeah.
good.
We're all
So,
freaks here.
yeah. So do you do like tours and things like that with regards to your books, or?
I haven't yet. No, I'm planning on doing some though. Probably next year now. I will do some. A lot of guys that I'm also friends with. There's quite a good indie British comic scene, and there's like Lucifer Storm, and Nick Henry did London Gothic.
Okay.
Guys like that. They regularly tour, so
Yeah.
I may well do some things like that with them.
Yeah, that'd be good fun. John Davies, is that a friend of yours?
Oh yeah, that's John Davies.
Cracky
Yeah, he's
film.
another author. Yeah.
Oh, okay. What's John done?
John has done a fantastic book. I actually have it here, I think. Bear with me.
Let's promote John. What's John?
Let's promote John. John has written probably one of my favorite books I've read in the last couple of years, actually. This is it here. Muscle.
Oh, Muscle. Nice
Yeah.
cover.
So it's a story about a bouncer. So immediately I connect to that.
Yeah.
It's a crime story. It's very lean. I've actually read it twice. I like it that much. It's great. And I own
Nice.
both versions of it as well. There's a different cover. I've got both versions.
Nice.
And it's brilliant. It's about sort of an older bouncer, and he runs his his area. He's got his couple of clubs. He's got his team, and he's being challenged by this young drug dealer who's pushing him basically and wants to take him out of the game.
Right.
And they're going to put their rivalry to bed with a straightener.
Right.
And no holds barred fight. They're going to have it sort of,
Nice.
out of the way, and it's all about the psychology of what's going through Frankie Collins. That's the name of the character. What's going through his head at the time.
Okay.
As he's building up to this incident, to this fight. It's a fantastic read. Yeah, I strongly recommend that.
Right. There we go, John. We've just promoted your book. So if there's any other, I'm seeing this video on the replay, or if you're there now, any other indie authors, please feel free to promote your books in the comments there. I'm a big fan of indie authors. I love to read them, get the voices out there, get people listening, reading. Would you ever consider, while we're on the subject of that, having your book done in audio, or has it been done to audio?
It hasn't been done, no. So yeah, I would consider doing that. Yeah, I need the right voice actor for it.
Yep.
And I suppose with Hot Dose, they're going to need to have a bit of range, because they're going to need to do. There's a lot of voices going on there, and they're very distinct. So yeah,
I'd like
that
to put
would probably be a bit of a challenge. Sorry?
I'll put myself up for Rhonda.
Yeah, go for it. That'd be great. Actually, I can
quite
hear
a deep
that.
voice. Can you picture me as Rhonda? Yeah, that's it.
Yeah.
Nailed. High five on that. We're done. I'm Rhonda. Yeah, I mean, I'm not a big Audible listener myself, because I find it really hard to concentrate. However, I did just recently listen to. I've been doing a buddy read with a book club that I have with Darko, who's in the comments, and Alicia, who's in the comments, and we've just read Invisible Man. So for the last 3 chapters, I opted for the Audible of it, which was done by a guy called Joe. I think he's Joe Morton, and he did a fantastic job of diverting through the voices. Because if you've just got that one narrator, and then you've got female and male, you've got to have that person who can keep you in the story by flipping both. Do you have any actors in mind who, either Audible or film, would play the parts of your characters ideally for you?
Oh,
it's a good one, isn't it?
That is a good one. Yeah.
So who would be Fred and Pinky?
Fred and Pinky. So I'd go more fantasy casting, because some of these people aren't with us anymore. But I'd have someone like I'd love like a Bob Hoskins for Fred.
Okay.
I think like Bob Hoskins back in the days when he did like the Long Good Friday, that kind of thing.
Right. Yeah.
Pinky, someone like a Dolph Lundgren type character.
Right.
Someone big and stoic and kind of like very physical.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'd like that. Rhonda, I'd go directly to the influences, and I'd want someone like a Ronda Rousey herself, Gina Carano, someone like that. That's who I'd love for those roles, because they could also handle the physicality of it. I think that's important as well with a film. I wanna believe, or even be able to see the people who are actually acting, doing the stunts and things like that.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, because there is a few.
Yeah. Quite
towards the end, especially. I mean, can you imagine if somebody came to you with the producer with the budget who could pull those end scenes off? Wow, that would be something to watch. That I'll explain that again to you later. I'll have to tell her, because I haven't told her about this yet. So who would be your Roxy and Kevin then?
Roxy and Kenny. I'm not sure, about those two. Who would you pick for those two?
Roxy. Do you know who I think could play a good Roxy? Because she's very sort of interchangeable.
Yeah.
Either Anne Hathaway.
Yeah.
Or if we're going to go British, let's have a think.
It's got to be someone quite wafy. It's quite skinny, hasn't it?
It's got to be tiny, haven't they? Kind of a.
Yeah.
Oh, I'm not sure. British. And Kenny. I don't know his name. He started doing a lot more stuff recently, and he is actually a Scouser. He started off in series, and then recently he's done a hell of a lot more films. He's only a tiny fella. He's going slightly bald, and he is very strongly Scouse.
Is that? Are you thinking? Is it Stephen Graham?
Don't know.
think so. It's the guy in is it the Caretakers program, wasn't it?
Yes.
With the Scouse guy.
Yeah, he's
who
got like
said-
chubby cheeks and he's only
Yeah.
tiny. He's going slightly bald.
Yeah, he's been quite.
Think-
Yeah.
Yeah, I think it's Stephen Graham I'm thinking of. I think
Yeah.
that's his name. Yeah,
I think he played-
I can picture who you're talking about, definitely.
Yeah, I think he'd be a good one. Oh, thanks for the shout out, Stephen. Thanks for the support, Dee. No problem. If
You're welcome, John.
well, I'll get to that one. Absolutely. I'm also going to get to Sledge.
Oh, Sledge is brilliant. You're going to love Sledge. You'll fly through that as well.
I know a lot of people have raved about that, and I feel like I'm missing out. But I was so grateful for your kindness to send me these books because for every single horror fan that possibly watches this on the replay, horror, do you agree with me where I think recent horror has maybe lost something?
Yeah.
I think it's not quite horror anymore.
Yeah.
I think we're borderlining on
Drama.
yes and
Yeah.
kind of suspenseful thrillers too much. We're not getting
Yeah.
that grit of horror, and that's what I liked about yours is we got that grit back. I mean, for me, horror is things like Saw,
Yeah.
where there's some blood and there's some guts, and that to me is what horror is, to be horrified. And yours does that. You know, the visuals that you put in that book are horrific. I'm okay with that. You know, that doesn't bother me. I can imagine it would bother some, but that's good
Yeah.
because
It
then
does
you've
turn
done.
some people off.
Yeah, well, you've done your job then, haven't you? That's the idea
true.
of horror.
Yeah.
I mean, you tell me what your idea of horror is.
Well, very similar to you. I mean, really important to me is I really like the physical kind of a horror, you know, where it's in your face, where it's something that's coming at you and it's attacking you and it's something like tangible that you can deal with.
Yeah.
I don't like the idea of ghosts so much unless they're ghosts that not in the way that they're done, you know, where they pop up at the mirror behind you every so often and they move something around. Like I find that a bit boring.
Yeah.
I want it if it's going to be a ghost, it's crawled out of its grave to come and get you. It's gonna grab you.
She hates stuff like that, but that's my thing. That's like, oh yeah, creep me out, make me freak, make my skin goosebump, and
yeah,
that's great. They should put that in a book.
Yeah.
Something crawling out of a mirror. Whoa. I want to read that. I want to read that somewhere. That's
actually
amazing.
that is a film now. To think about it, Mirrors. That was a movie.
Mirrors.
Yeah. Have you seen that one?
I have.
Yeah.
See, the thing is, you can name absolutely. Am I right or am I wrong here in saying this? Every single horror film, I've seen it, but whether I remember it or not is a different thing. Like I watched Baghead last night. Have you seen that one?
No.
Yeah, and it's actually not bad.
Yeah.
Not bad. I wouldn't say, oh my God, you've got to watch it. I'd say it's not bad. The little twist on it. So yes, it's about sort of demons and this woman is in this basement of this old English pub, and the dad is watching over, and then the daughter inherits it because he dies. But there's this little sort of, if you sign the deed, there's this particular fountain pen with sort of symbols on it, and you then condemn yourself basically to look after this woman. And this woman is with the bag on her head, so hence Baghead.
Yeah.
But she's not what you initially think. So you're thinking, oh, she's possessed. So, you know, no. They've gone a little different way. So she can talk to the dead, but she kind of brings them back as herself. But she isn't an ancient thing. So I quite enjoyed it. I thought, you know, that you've got the essence there of the story.
Yeah.
You know, it needs a bit more to it, a bit more sort of gore to it. Maybe slice open a throat or two, you know, maybe rip off a face, you know, that kind of thing. And that's just me and my sick ways, I think. But
I totally agree with you. I think that's why we get on.
Yes, I think that. Yay, good. I'm glad somebody's as sick as me. What's this? The more you talk about starts with, I'm more intrigued now. Okay, see, sell your book to my bestie Darko, because I know he likes horror. He's a big horror fan like me. That's how we ended up besties, is that we're talking about our horror love and other things in our life. So for those that haven't read it, tell them why they should read it.
Okay, you should read it because it's a mad ride. It's like a roller coaster with a lot of gore, a lot of action, but there's a lot of humor in there as well. It's a bit
Yeah.
of satire, a little bit of social commentary too, but I think it's stuff that I think everyone will recognize and be like, yeah, he's pointing something out that I recognize and is real, not that kind of fake social commentary that's coming off the news, you know, something that people can actually relate to. But for the most part, it is fun. I
Yeah.
think that's the main thing about it.
Yeah. But it's fun with action, and it's even got that element of mystery to it. And you grow this affinity for the characters, and you're rooting for them, and and something happens, and it's got pretty much everything. This is why I love it, Steve. It's a horror mixed with mystery.
Yeah.
And those two, you put them two together, and I'm sold. There's just not enough of horror with mystery slapped together so that you have no idea what's going on. What is this? Where's it come from? And then everything just goes tits up, and there's carnage, and that's your book. It's just superb. And let me just, because the title is come from my head. That's it. Spring Heeled Jim. Jim is just, will you, because the way you've handled Jim as this serial killer homeless guy, will you go more elaborate into that side of things? Because you've nailed that.
Yeah.
You nailed that.
Yeah. Well, actually, funnily enough, when you get to the back of the book, you'll find out about inspirations for Jim and kind of the real Jim a little bit as well.
Right. Do you have a thing in regards to serial killers? Is that an intrigue for you?
A little bit, yeah. Very like everyone. I think everyone does nowadays.
Yeah.
I don't think there's anyone who's not gone through all the true crime documentaries on Netflix over the years and really delved into that stuff. Yeah. I think that's I don't know about you. I think it's a natural thing to do because you're intrigued by it because it's horrible.
Yep.
But you're also kind of finding out about it because you know it's something you need to be looking out for.
Yeah. I think for me, and I've had this conversation with Britain, because I've got a traumatic past, I think I have that bizarre fascination with it where, because of my traumatic past, I'm a little bit more intrigued into the psychology of that side of things. But you don't know how to word it, do you? The one I'm fascinated with, not to the extent of I'm sort of weird and I want a copycat, but is Jeffrey Dahmer. He's one whose brain, so to speak, I would have loved to have picked and had a conversation with and been like, because he was quite, this is why I did it, and I did do it. And so I'd love to have that conversation with him of just why did you feel you had to create that human zombie to control what was behind your thought process. Do you love those elements of like the psychology of the human way of thinking and play that into your books?
Yeah, absolutely do. Yeah, I like to always know why someone's doing something, and to sort of, when I feel I need to actually outline that to the reader as well.
Yeah,
but it's very important. When you start to find out where characters are coming from. Like there's a character, there's a predatory character in Hot Dose.
Yeah.
Who presents himself as not a predator, but he is. And you find out later, and that's why he goes to such pains to present himself in the way he does.
Yeah.
Because he's masking what he really is.
Yeah. I don't know how to put this. Your character work is some of the best I've read. But you can tell that you're putting it.
Compliment, thank you.
Well, you can tell because you're basing it off human interaction, and you can tell that's why I wanted to ask that, because it was so realistic and so true that it had to be, you've just got this amazing way of writing that. But to me, there had to be that element of reality to the interaction of that. So I'm really looking forward to what you do in the future with where your characters are going. Do you think that you will, throughout the course of your writing, stick with your characters, or are you one of those that's got so many ideas and so many stories that it would be kind of impossible to leave people out. There's people that you still want to throw in and have us hear about.
Yeah, there's still a lot more. I'm afraid there's still a lot more crazy people that
Don't be afraid.
I've met.
We're good for that.
But I do like to. There are others I would like to bring back in when I can. You know, if it fits, I'll bring them back. You know, there's certain characters I do have a lot of affection for, or that would fit in a certain scenario. So
yeah,
I wouldn't rule it out.
I'd love to hear more about Rhonda.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'd love to hear more from you about Rhonda, and you know, some maybe stories, because we hear a little bit. Is it Mike, if memory serves me right? Rhonda and Mike. Yeah. So we hear a little bit of a story about Rhonda and Mike in A Hot Dose of Hell. I'd love it if you could squeeze in somewhere a little story of how Rhonda and Mike came about and their relationship, and that would be fun to read, because you do give us a little sniff of Rhonda and Mike and the time they spent together.
Yeah.
But I'd like to hear who Mike properly was as a character.
Yeah. Okay. I've got somewhere I could put Mike, actually. So
right.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'd like that. That'd be cool.
Yeah, there's a story he would fit right into, I think.
Oh.
I could do that if you give me a good idea.
Oh, nice. That's cool.
I'd be a little treat
who gave
for you.
That's so cool. Yeah, because disappointed's the wrong word. I wanted more of Mike. I wanted to know more of that. I was like, oh, okay. So, I mean, Mike's been an influence on Rhonda for her body and her fitness.
Yeah.
But why is that? You know, did they serve together? Was there something there as to why, like, she met Mike and admired him and he became an influence on her? Or was there some sort of intimate relationship between these two, but then it didn't work out? And, you know, that's where my brain, because I don't know, I overthink things sometimes when I read. And
no, it's great. Yeah,
I create stories of my own in my head.
Well, that's what I want. I really want to hear that. So I want the characters to live outside the page. So although Mike, he's only mentioned really in the story, but you get that sense of Rhonda's life and, you know, her relationships and what few relationships she has.
Yeah.
That was kind of the idea behind that. So it makes the world a little bit more real. And the fact that you're doing that's exactly what I wanted you to do. So that's great.
Good. Yeah, yeah, because that's because she's such this standalone character, and that's a massive thing that you notice about her is, you know, she's not very good in social situations, and I will get to that group in a minute, that horrendous group that she's with, who have got what seemingly are good intentions, but they're absolute bunch of asses.
Yeah.
But they're obviously meant to be. You know, how she's, for the love of a sister, she's going to cope with these people, but in her head it's like, you know, it's not for long, it's just get me there, get to where I need to be. But you can tell now she, in her way, is more like my dad. That's more like what my dad was, as in this very kind of, because he had a traumatic past as well, but he was a very kind of, if you were in his inner circle, then you meant a lot to him. And that's kind of the impression I got with Rhonda as well, is that's kind of why Mike is mentioned, because he meant a lot to Rhonda, and she doesn't freely give herself like that to people. She's very specific on who she chooses to become in her inner circle, and that's how I pictured her. But where did those bunch of dicks come from, Steve?
Those geeks. They're all over social media.
It's the TikTokers that you see all the time.
It really is. Yeah, it really is. So just some of the conversations I see, they're journalists, you know, they're some of the sad people who you see who've been allowed to make mainstream comics and, you know, been given the keys to lots of like popular franchises these days and decide to put their own twist on it.
Yeah.
They're those kind of a people, you know, and to a certain extent you've probably also in real life met a couple of people like that who do some of those things, and you just kind of you see through them, don't you?
I loved your because I mentioned this in my video, I loved they're there to help the homeless. Okay. But you've got is it Poppy, if memory serves me correct?
Yeah, Poppy,
Poppy. She's kind of the leader of this group. But it's all about the selfie and we've got to catch this moment and got to catch that moment. But so she's an influencer, but she's pretending under the help of helping the homeless. But then when they turn up to help, I mean, granted, it is a necessary item, but they turn up with toiletries,
Right.
you know, whereas the homeless want to eat.
Yeah.
They don't give a shit about brushing the teeth.
Yeah.
They want to eat. So that was hilarious to me. I laughed so hard at that part. It really made me giggle. I thought that is so funny that she's giving across this kind of such a passionate image that she wants to save these people. Yet, you know, why don't they want the toothpaste? I don't understand.
Yeah.
They could always eat it, I suppose, Poppy. You know, you know, she was that kind of. I don't know how to see her. A little bit. No, maybe not ditzy, because she's quite manipulative, isn't she, with the boys? How she's got them all sort
I
of.
think she's got that naivety of someone who's been very privileged. That kind
Yeah.
of out of touch thing that you see some politicians have, you know, where
Mm.
they try to connect with people and they're just way off the mark. You know,
Yeah.
they really just have no idea how the rest of us live. And she's a little bit like that. She's come from that kind of a level of wealth, I think.
Yeah. I did like the guy who drives the van, though. His name escapes me.
Ed,
Ed.
yeah.
I was kind of rooting for him in a way.
Yeah, I wanted that because I didn't want to paint them all as
Yeah.
complete bad guys. And Ed's a bit of an idiot,
Yeah.
but to a certain extent, his heart is in the right place out of all
Yeah.
of them. He's kind of, he has his humiliations at times as well,
Yeah.
and his stupid things that he does. But he's, you know, and Rhonda recognizes that in him as well.
Yeah,
you know,
she does. Yeah.
So
Yeah, they have a little face off with each other, don't they, to start with? It's like they don't
that's
really
right.
like
Yeah,
each other, but then they sort of grow this weird kind of affection for each other. And
yeah,
I was rooting a little bit for Ed. I was like, oh, you know, don't let anything happen to him, you know, kind of. I quite like him. I kind of want him. He's seeming to be going in the right direction now. Let's,
yeah. You want him
you
to
know,
grow, don't you? Yeah,
yeah,
you want him to
yeah,
get that chance. Yeah,
yeah. And I just got a flashback then to one of the final scenes of the chaos in the pub and
yeah.
the guy. Where did that idea come from? Were they site workers in the high vises?
Oh yeah, yeah. So they were
Yeah,
just having beers after work. Those
yeah,
poor guys. Yeah,
yeah.
yeah.
Brilliant.
Just you know, good guys, tough guys, have a go heroes. They wanted to get involved, and
Just all of
sadly
a
they were out of
sudden,
their depth.
they're
Yeah.
in this like, what the fuck is going on? But I loved how they sort of, they were ex-army,
A
weren't they?
couple of a few of
Yeah,
them are ex-forces, aren't they? Yeah.
yeah. So
But
they
your
just,
average pub is just full of blokes like that, though,
yeah,
isn't it?
yeah,
Who like, you know, they've done stuff, they've been there.
yeah.
Uh,
That's true.
you crash into a normal pub somewhere. It's
Yeah,
full of guys like that.
yeah.
You know.
It was just brilliant how all of a sudden the kind of the ex-Sarge or whatever he was just, you know, rallies the troops and they're all like, we've just got to jump in and, you know, do
Yeah.
what we've got to do. And it's such a good scene. It's such a good scene. You've got to read this book because that is such a good scene. It's like, you know, things happen that you just don't think are going to happen. You think certain people might be safe and they're not, and just everything got ticked up. And it's such a good scene. And the whole thing with Rhonda in the car as well, and that's a great scene. You've just done a fantastic job. It was so good, so good, really, really good. The characters, the arcs, like with the arc with obviously Roxy, that's a doozer of an arc, and the arc with
Yeah.
Rhonda is superb. The arc to some extent with Ed, how things change there. Fred and Pinky as well with Jim. That's superb. We're not just talking about Hot Dose of Hell here, everyone. We're also talking about Violent Ends. So once you've read A Hot Dose of Hell, jump on to Violent Ends because your very first section is we go back, excuse me, to Fred and Pinky with Jim. But it's a prequel, isn't it? I'm assuming
Yeah,
to
it's
A Hot
before.
Dose. Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. Did you get enjoyment out of writing them two guys? Is that why you went back again and did a prequel?
Yeah. I mean, I'd read that's quite an old story actually. Spring Hill Jim. I wrote that. That's the first story I wrote actually.
Oh, in the context that it's in here.
In real life, first story I ever
Oh,
wrote.
right.
Way back in like 2009, I wrote that, and obviously changed it over the years, messed around with it. Sort of back then, I put it away and didn't think about it, and then sort of
Right.
picked it back up again not that long ago. It was published by Hellbound Books in a slightly different form.
Right.
And when I got the rights back, I looked at the two characters and I was like, oh, hang on a minute, that's pretty much Fred and Pinky. That's
Right.
them. So then I was like, well, I can make it them. And that's
Yeah.
what I did, And I thought anyone who's read Hot Dose is going to appreciate that.
Yeah. Absolutely. Absolutely. And you've done it in such a good way that you don't even know at first.
Yeah.
You don't even know that it's them at first. And you're like, there's just these guys who, one kind of nudges into Jim and the other one kind of helps him up. And it doesn't even click that it's Fred and Pinker. Doesn't even
Yeah.
click right up until that last moment, the lady in red, as she should be
Yeah.
called. And it's superb, that twist that you've done there. But like I said, I do hope you do more with regards to Jim, the serial killer. Like a prequel
Yeah.
into,
His
because
life.
because obviously, he's been a busy man, hasn't he, over this time of being
He
homeless,
has
and
indeed. Yeah.
he's got himself quite a few victims there that maybe we need to hear more about.
Yeah. Yeah. Could do.
Yeah, that'd be quite
I
cool.
wouldn't rule that out.
Yeah. Oh, nice, nice. So the second one, let me
Yeah.
just go back because I've got quite far into that now. This is quite a cool one as well. Excuse me. Just to get the title right. Big Mouth Strikes Again.
Hmm.
So we're talking religious now. We've taken
Yeah.
on kind of a religious element. I liked the Brian, is he called?
Brian, yeah.
Brian, who's got all these guys working for him, and he's basically taken over this. Is it an old church?
Yeah.
Yeah. So he's changing the church into a nightclub
Mhm.
and wants rid of all the statues in there. And one guy, he's having this conversation with the lads. He's having a bit of a speech, and this one guy pipes up. Carl doesn't like the idea of getting rid of the Jesus statue,
That's right.
but Brian say, get it done anyway. So he does take his sledgehammer to it, and then behind that, there's something else.
Yeah.
Is this a story that you've been told, or is this just purely imagination?
There's a little bit of real life in there. Like a place I lived did have a church that was converted into a nightclub.
Oh,
And I
nice.
remembered some people being a little bit upset about it, and it always stuck in my mind that of like
Yeah.
the way they talked about it, and that kind of inspired that idea. I sort of
Yeah.
took that idea and made it something actual physical.
I mean, that would make a cool nightclub. No disrespect, but the stained glass windows, and that would make
Yeah.
a pretty cool nightclub.
That was what it was like, actually.
Oh, really?
Yeah, it really was like that. Yeah.
What kind of era are we talking? See?
It was a proper old church. I want to say like maybe Middle Ages.
Really?
Yeah, it was old. Yeah.
Wow, that'd be stunning.
I'll have to look into it, and then I'll drop you some info.
Yeah, that'd be
Find out a bit
cool.
more, see if I can find some pictures or anything.
Yeah, I'd love to see that because that really got my attention. That I mean, one thing I've always wanted to do, you know this, don't you?
Mm.
Is own a nightclub. I've
Right.
always wanted to own a nightclub and operate a nightclub, and we just saw Brian Bell, who himself is an ex-nightclub owner.
Yeah.
So it's something I've always wanted to do, and I've always had the name of the nightclub in my head and all this business. But that really caught my attention. So you have this ability as well, because I'm not that far into it.
Mhm.
With the found item, shall we say, behind
Yeah.
where the dance, not the dance, where the stage is going to be, and we've now got this hole.
Yeah.
So are we going supernatural here? Is this got a supernatural element to it?
Yeah. So this is where I'll with the next sort of few stories go a bit supernatural. Yeah.
Right, okay. With faces being ripped off though still.
Still all that, yeah, absolutely. I think you're going to be very satisfied.
Oh, really? Right, okay. Yeah.
It has been said that this is more bloody, even more so than Hot Toast.
Really?
Yeah,
Right.
I'm not sure. I should check the body count really. But,
Yeah, because I
it's
was
at least
looking
on
at
par.
okay, because I was looking at the quotes on the back. I love one of them. Let me get some light here. Where is it? I think it's Nick whose quote it is.
Yeah.
Stark is like king without conscience, Barker, but more badass. I love
Yeah.
that quote. That's such a cute. I mean, you can't get much more praise than that, can you? Really?
No, yeah, it's brilliant. I love that one.
Yeah, but it's not wrong. I mean, like I said, if you're into your horror where you want the gore and you want the blood, but it's not just, it's not pointless gore, it's not pointless blood. There's that storyline there. There's the mystery element to it. And yet still, even though to a certain extent Hot Dose is explained, it's kind of not, and it's kind of left open-ended. So you've done an amazing job with it. You really have. It's mystery, horror, gore, it's all of that with page turning quality to it, where what is happening with these characters, where are they going now? And because you've done it in such a condensed amount of pages, that in itself to me is somewhat of a skill, because I suppose you could have rambled or gone on with that to quite some extent.
Yeah, that's one thing I hate. So I'd never do that.
Right.
I try to make it as lean as I possibly can. And to be honest, if I look at that book now, there's probably lines I'd be ripping out if I looked at it again now, but that would be nitpicking. You got
That
to
was
move on
gonna
at some
be
point.
Yeah, that was going to be one of my questions, is like, if you could go back, is the things that you would change?
Probably. I
Right.
read that one a couple of years ago now. So yeah, there probably is a few things that would change, but I just have to let it be what it is.
Yeah,
You know, let it exist on its own terms. That's what it is.
yeah,
I wouldn't change
absolutely.
it.
Yeah, it's because, I mean, I suppose we'd all do that, wouldn't we? Is look back, reflect back on our work and be like, oh, with
Yeah.
what I know now, hindsight is a great thing, and I'd just tweak that and change that. But it is what it is for the time that it was written, and
Yeah.
it's a great piece of horror. It really is. There's no denying that. That's because I want to keep reading on with the characters. It just shows that your character structure is so good that I'm invested in your characters, and I want to know what more is there from your characters. Are we going to see them again? And which you've kind of done in Violent Ends, is you've brought Fred and Pinky back. So
Yeah.
there's the potential for you to bring any of your characters back, really, unless obviously you've killed them off. But then we could have a prequel.
Sure.
This is just me plowing for. Please keep the characters, Steve. Please bring back the characters. Please, please do.
Who was your
more you can.
favorite?
Out of
Who was your
Hot Dose of
favorite? Do you
Hell?
have a favorite? Sorry.
Out of Hot Dose of Hell?
Yeah. Yeah.
Oh, favorite. Oh, that's really hard to pick.
Yeah.
I
Good.
think for the comedy duo element, but how kick-ass they are, Fred and Pinky are awesome. But there's the guy at the end as well who I'm intrigued with in the room.
Yeah.
He's like, oh, he's piqued my interest.
The
Because
man in the suit, is that?
yeah,
Yeah.
he's kind of, who's he? What's that about? But Rhonda as well. Rhonda's amazing.
Yeah.
She's such a badass, and yet is caring at the same time. She clearly loves her sister, but and she's not even give up on her, even on the fact of the conversations have been about money and feeding Roxy's habit, but she's still not giving up on her. So she's got that side to her of loyalty towards her sister, and it does seem like she probably is quite a loyal character. That's part of her makeup, is a loyalty. But the kick-ass badass in the Victoria of what she has to face, and what Fred and Pinky, what the three of them do together. I challenge any action film to sort of come up with that or better, because if that is put on screen, I mean, to read it literary is one thing, but if you can actually visualize that, make a visual capture of that for yourself, it's superb. It's such good action. Such good action. You write action really well, really well. And just for the piss out weapons that Fred and Pinky have got to a certain extent, but
Yeah. They haven't got much,
because
have
of
they?
because of who they are, that they're going to be wielded well. And Rhonda does a bloody good job as well of.
Yeah, she does. Yeah.
So yeah, it's difficult to and the sneaky guy at the beginning, who Roxy and Kenny actually steal off. Is he called John, or is he
Uh,
called John because he's a John?
it's exactly it. Yeah,
Yeah,
that's the name he's
yeah,
going under. But
yeah.
yeah,
But the little like with what goes down, and then he's kind of,
yeah, he's
oh
done
my
his job.
god, yeah. He's
Yeah,
like, he's achieved it. That's
yeah,
it. Now he can, it's playing the part of and then it's and off he pops, and it's so good, and so creepy, and so gory, and I just loved it. I really, really loved it.
oh, thank
So
you.
let me see. What did I have here? I did have another sneaky one that I wanted to ask you. Let's see if I can find it. So do you, that was just one last question that I wanted to ask you. Where as
Yeah.
far as like our schools and the education of literature in schools, you being an author yourself now, did you find that education helped you with that, or was it more you did it yourself and you felt like maybe you was let down a little bit? Do you think it's maybe education isn't helping the reading world very much, or
I think to a certain extent, I think it depends what teacher you get. I think it's pure potluck and purely a, if you get a teacher that actually takes an interest in you as well.
yeah,
That's one thing. I had a couple of different English teachers at school, and I was lucky enough for a few years to have one that I liked
yeah,
and that she was engaging, and she
yeah,
was, she was good to talk to, and she would allow me to write mad shit like the kind
yeah.
of shit I write now, and she would
That's what
kind
you
of,
want.
I could tell it wasn't her cup of tea, but she would grade it to, how it fit the criteria, not I'm disgusted
Oh,
at this,
nice.
go
Yeah.
downstairs and see the headmaster kind of thing, it
You've
was,
got issues. Get to the
yeah.
office.
Yeah. So I was lucky there. That helped, definitely allowed me to sort of, explore my creativity a little bit.
Yeah,
So I would say that was where I was doing that to begin with.
yeah, yeah. Because I mean, I didn't necessarily feel the same at school. I felt like it kind of let me down a bit as
Yeah.
far as purposes of reading go. It's something I had to do myself. But would you have any hints, tips, and advice for anybody looking to potentially wanting to write or start a short story or something like that?
Yeah, I always say the same thing. Write a little bit about what you know and about what you care about, and
Yeah,
then it should come from there.
yeah,
That should always be your starting point. And if
yeah,
you're writing about what you know, but you're putting it in a different kind of setting, that's fine too.
yeah,
You just gotta figure out how that world works that you're putting those situations into.
yeah. Superb. It's great advice. So I think we're going to wrap it up. I've kept you for an hour, see. Do you want to tell the people where they can find you, your books,
Yeah,
maybe
sure.
your
So
socials?
yeah, I'm on X or Twitter, whatever you want to call it. I'm on a few other random ones, some of the like smaller ones like Gab and Minds and things like that. You can get my books quite a lot of places now. You can get it at Waterstones, you can get it at Amazon, you can get it basically just Google Hot Dose of Hell or Violent Ends, and you'll see a whole bunch of places. Some of these shops I've never even heard of stock it. So yeah, you can find it everywhere, and I think you can request your store to order it in through Amazon as well if you've got a local bookshop.
Okay.
You can do that too, but Amazon's pretty much the main place to get it, I would say.
Nice. Okay. So make sure, guys, that you do check out Steve's work. It is so good. If you are a huge horror fan, but you like that, what we in essence think is proper horror. So you've got some blood and guts and gore in there, and it's actually horrific. It's not just horror. It's horror. Steve's got that covered. It's absolutely what he does. His characters are fantastic. You will not be disappointed. Yeah, I can absolutely guarantee you will not be disappointed. I am a bit of a horror snob, and I love it. So you won't be disappointed. So thank you, Steve. That was superb. Really, really interesting talking to you.
Oh, it's my pleasure. Thank you for having me on.
It was listen, I don't have the words to thank you for taking the time out and talking to me and talking to my peoples, my book family. Give us some either words of encouragement or a cheeky one-liner or just something that says you for us to leave on.
Oh, put me on the spot there, haven't you?
Or maybe tell a joke.
Oh geez, what to say? Keep reading and keep writing, everyone. And that's a pretty lame thing to say. I'm a bit lost there.
Not lame at all. That's great
It's been a
advice.
pleasure. Been a pleasure being on here.
It's been absolutely awesome to have you, and I cannot wait to finish Violent Ends. These covers. Who did the covers, by the way? I forgot to ask that.
That's my friend Mad Dog Marty. He's been my friend for a long time, most of my life actually. He's been my friend since we were 12 years old.
They're so cool.
And yeah, he did those for me. He's
Yeah, they're
brilliant.
cool. Yeah, good job. Good job. So again, thank you, Steve. It was so cool to talk to you. I hope everybody enjoyed it. Thanks again to all the subs. 200 subs is amazing. We didn't think we'd see that, did we? But we're so grateful for that. And we're going to leave it there. And if you didn't catch this here, you can catch it on the replay. Again, thanks, Steve. And thank you, everyone in chat. Love you. Bye-bye.
Cheers, Dee. Bye, guys.
Thanks, lovely.